make every public college and university in this country tuition free.
My plan would enable anyone to go to a public college or university tuition free.
Guarantee health care to all of our people as a right of citizenship.
I want to open up the opportunity for immigrants to be able to buy into the exchanges under the Affordable Care Act.
And it's all free. You heard them promise a lot more big government gifts if they're elected. But what you didn't hear is how they pay for them all. Hi, everybody. I'm David Asman. Welcome to Forbes on Fox. So can we afford more federal handouts? Let's find out with Rich Karlgaard, Mike Ozanian, Elizabeth McDonald, Sabrina Schaefer, John Tamny, and Bruce Japsen. Rich, can we afford it?
Hey, David, may I say that I want freshly squeezed orange juice for free out of every public water fountain?
Yes, you can.
I want to start there.
It's in the Constitution. It's a right. Go ahead.
It is. You know, there's 60% of Americans think we're in recession. There's no, it's not a debate that there's widespread economic despair out there. The problem is we don't have enough economic growth. We've been stuck in this 2% growth economy. If we could get this to a 3 or 4% growth economy, we would create the wealth. Then let's have the discussion whether we should give away more stuff. But we got to put the horse before the cart and talk about economic growth.
Well, and Bruce, where is the money coming from? I mean, Americans are already taxed, I think, $3.25 trillion right now. That's what comes out of the private sector to already pay for what's in the public sector. How can we grow the public sector more when we can't grow that tax money more?
Well, part of it, I would say, you know, it's about priorities and how the money is allocated. I mean, setting aside the 2 wars and $2 trillion we've spent in the last decade, if you get the undocumented workers who are working, by the way, if you get them paying taxes on a path to citizenship, that would help raise some more money, and you could give them some of these freebies.
So, Mike, it's all about immigration. The immigrants will pay for it.
No, there's not enough money there by a long shot. I mean, come on, let's get serious. What really kills me is how they used to call it when the government spent our tax money spending. Then that became out of vogue. Now they call it investing. But we know these are lousy investments, David, because if you go back just 25 years, our debt used to be 60% relative to the size of our whole economy. Right. Those investments have been so bad that the debt is now over 100% of our whole economy.
Let's just focus on that for a second, Sabrina, because the debt is totally out of control. Our economy has grown in the past 15 years 74%. Can you guess how much our debt has grown in the same time frame? 221%. They're supposed to rise in tandem. At this rate, you know, it's just unsustainable. It's as simple as that. Our economy will go broke in a couple of years.
It absolutely is, David, and people are concerned about it. Look, Democrats sell this as if it's sort of manna from heaven, right? It has no costs associated with it, but we all know that it's going to increase taxes, it's going to increase the debt, it's going to increase burdens on the American family, and it's going to make it for a less dynamic economy. So this is all bad.
And EMAC, we just don't get the bang for our buck. I mean, look at the poverty programs. Since they started back in '65 with Lyndon Johnson, we've spent trillions. There aren't that many more people out of poverty as a result of all that spending.
Yeah, that's true. And the CBO, which is nonpartisan, says now that 60% of U.S. households on average get more in government benefits than they pay into the system in federal taxes. Wow, that is a big swing. You know, the Democrats act like there's, you know, government spending fairies that pick this money off of money trees. And it's so cynical what they're talking about and what they're offering here. We're in deep yogurt. There's way too much Grey Poupon spending going on in Washington, D.C. We can't afford it.
And, John, I want to pick up on that cynicism thing, too, that EMAC was talking about, because what happens when you spend all this money is, particularly on poverty programs or people that don't have anything, you create this sense of dependency on government by people that hasn't helped America. What's really helped America grow the fastest and get more people out of poverty is that sense of independence. It doesn't come from taking handouts from the government.
Well, certainly the poverty programs do create dependency, but the bigger story here is, as evidenced by the deficits, we can afford these programs, but it would be at the expense of liberty, and it would be at the expense of prosperity, because it would deprive real companies that employ us and move the economy forward of the capital in order to grow. We should reject these Democratic proposals because they're inimical to prosperity.
Bruce, what about that? You're taking money away from a productive. I don't think you'd argue that the public sector is more productive than the private sector, are you?
No, I don't think so. But I think if you have people who are working and they're not paying taxes, I mean, and if they are working and they are paying taxes, then they do get some benefits. And I'd say on the health care thing, you know, Hillary's not talking about free. She's saying buy into it. I mean, right now, with undocumented workers and other people, they're paying for. Listen, we're paying for them to come into the emergency rooms, and they're paying nothing.
Sabrina, go ahead.
We're subsidizing that already.
Well, yeah, I mean, first of all, I think that's sort of, we're in la-la land if we actually believe that. But I think, unfortunately, you know, I'm thinking of this from a perspective of women, and so many of these programs are sold in the name of protecting women, right? We're hearing about packages for paid leave and child care subsidies, which all of you will be paying for. But one of the things that worries me is the message underneath it all as well. So it's costing us in our debt and taxes, as John points out. It's also perpetuating this myth that there's all of these people in society who are victims.
So,
and I think that's
we're
a
just
terrible
paying
part
for
of
a message. That's what's happening here.
Yeah, and by the way, the government paid out $1 trillion in overpayments since 2003 via Medicaid, Medicare, and earned income tax credits. That money, that's taxpayer money that was wrongfully sent out the door. By the way, who said this? As somebody who worked in low-income neighborhoods rather, over time I've seen motivation start to diminish when people are just getting a check. President Obama said that in 2011. So that's the point to be made about government handouts. Does it undermine the work ethic? Even the president indicated it does.
And Rich, we pointed this out before, but FDR said the same thing. One of the founders of our welfare system, FDR, said way back in the 30s that the danger is people become addicted to these government handouts.
Well, they do. And if you're going to argue for some public assistance, you know, which FDR and even Eisenhower did, make it in the form of infrastructure. We built things like the Golden Gate Bridge, the interstate highway system. We put a man on the moon. You know, yes, this is government funding, but it employed people toward noble causes.
Although,
if you're going to do the Democrats should make that case,
right.
You know, but they're not making that case. They're talking about giveaways.
And Mike, frankly, sometimes I hear about this infrastructure building. That was what the stimulus was supposed to be about. That was going to get our economy going. It didn't work out so well.
Well, you know, David, during President Clinton's term, infrastructure spending was roughly the same, and I don't remember the world falling apart at that point. But I think the bigger picture here is what the message the Democrats are pitching is they're going away from an incentive-driven economy whereby the individual or the business takes on the risks, invests the money, and achieves the prosperity. And the government then gets some tax money from that, to the opposite, where the government feels it owns your prosperity and you should be happy with whatever crumbs it leaves you.
Well, here's the million-dollar question, a trillion-dollar question, I should point, to John. What do the American people believe? Do they believe in still that the independence that they get from working on their own is more important than government control?
I think Americans intuitively know that governments have no resources. They also know that governments cannot spend on anything in competent fashion. So when we allow governments to spend, we allow the political class, people like John Boehner and Nancy Pelosi, to spend it, as opposed to Bill Gates and Warren Buffett and Jeff Bezos. Reduce government spending overall in all areas and grow prosperity.
Rich, don't the folks in Silicon Valley believe that?
Yeah, they do, but I just want to push back a little bit against John. Why was it that we used to be able to do these things pretty well? You know, what has happened? Well, I think it's public sector unions. I think it's crazy environmental laws. That's what the Democrats should be talking about.
Give John a chance to answer. Go ahead, John.
But imagine how much better our highways and infrastructure would be if they were run by the private sector. We'd probably have gotten to the moon much more quickly. They wouldn't have been built. So you're saying that there wouldn't be a road from Los Angeles to San Francisco without the
Hold on.
I got
to bring up an example here. Hold on, guys. And it does involve Donald Trump. Back in the 1980s, remember, the government of New York City, the local government, was trying to build an ice skating rink. It took them 5 years. They were over budget. They still didn't complete it. He said, give it to me. Within 6 months, he had it done under budget. So I would argue, Rich, that that is an example of the private sector doing it better than the public, wouldn't you?
You wouldn't have an Interstate 80 going across Kansas, though. We're an intercontinental nation. Just saying, we used to do this stuff well. Now we don't.
In 2009, President Obama's stimulus plan, just 7% of that went to infrastructure spending.
Okay. Last word from me, Matt. Coming up next, the most polluted cities in the United States are in one of the greenest states in the U.S. That state, and why some here say it means all those green laws should go up in smoke, coming next.